The unexpected offering. The red sun of Proxima Centauri B cast an eerie glow over the human settlement of New Eden. The colony, a sprawling network of geodesic domes and underground tunnels, stood as a testament to human perseverance in the face of overwhelming odds. For 7 years, the colonists had toiled to create a home on this alien world, fighting against its harsh environment and even harsher inhabitants. Zara, a young girl of 12, peered out of her family's dome, her green eyes reflecting the crimson light of the alien sun. She watched as the towering figures of the Proximan overlords strode through the settlement's main thoroughfare, their elongated limbs and iridescent exoskeletons a stark contrast to the drab utilitarian structures of the human colony. "Zara, get away from the window," her mother hissed, pulling her back into the shadows of their living space. "You know it's not safe to be seen when they're here." Zara nodded, but her curiosity burned brighter than her fear. The Proximans had arrived on their world 3 years ago, descending from the stars in ships that blotted out the sun. They claimed ownership of the planet and its resources, reducing the human settlers to little more than serfs. "Why are they here, Mom?" Zara whispered, even though she knew the answer. The Proximans came every year on this day, and every year they left with something precious. Her mother's face tightened, lines of worry etching deeper into her skin. "It's the offering, Zara, you know that." The offering. The word sent a chill down Zara's spine. Each year, the Proximans demanded a tribute from the human colony, a young person to be sent into the labyrinth that sprawled beneath the planet's surface. No one knew what happened to those who were taken, but none had ever returned. A commotion outside drew their attention back to the window. The colony's leader, Administrator Chen, stood before the assembled Proximans, his normally proud shoulders slumped in defeat. "Noble Proximans," Chen's voice carried through the thin air, amplified by the settlement's speaker system. "We have gathered as requested for the annual offering. Our people stand ready to fulfill our obligation." The tallest of the Proximans stepped forward, its multifaceted eyes gleaming in the red light. When it spoke, its voice was a cacophony of clicks and whistles, translated by the devices worn by the human colonists. "Your tribute has been insufficient," the alien declared. "Your offspring lack the necessary qualities. This year, we will choose." A ripple of fear passed through the gathered humans. This was unprecedented. Always before, the colony had been allowed to choose its own sacrifice, a small mercy in an otherwise merciless arrangement. Zara felt her mother's grip tighten on her arm, but she couldn't look away from the scene unfolding outside. The Proximan leader began to move through the crowd, its segmented body twisting as it examined each child it passed. Parents pulled their children close, some openly weeping, others standing in stoic terror. The alien paused before a boy Zara recognized from her classes, tilting its head as if in consideration. Then it moved on. Relief and guilt warred on the faces of the boy's parents. As the Proxima neared their dome, Zara's mother tried to pull her further back into the shadows, but it was too late. The alien's gaze locked onto Zara, its compound eyes seeming to pierce through the dome's translucent material. With a series of rapid clicks, it pointed directly at their home. "That one," it declared. "She possesses the spark we seek." Time seemed to slow as Proximan guards moved towards their dome. Zara heard her mother's scream as if from a great distance, felt hands grabbing at her clothes, trying to hold her back. But a strange calm had settled over her. She knew, with a certainty that defied explanation, that this was her path. "It's okay," Mom, Zara said, her voice steady despite the tears that threatened to fall. "I'll go, I have to." The next few moments passed in a blur. The guards entered their home, gently but firmly separating Zara from her mother's desperate embrace. Administrator Chen was there, his face a mask of sorrow and guilt. "I'm so sorry, Zara," he whispered as she was led away. "If there was any other way." Zara nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. As she was guided towards the waiting Proximans, she caught glimpses of familiar faces in the crowd. Her best friend, Malik, watched with wide, disbelieving eyes. Old Mrs. Yamato, who had taught Zara to tend the hydroponic gardens, wept silently. Even gruff Mr. Kowalski, who always complained about the noise of playing children, looked stricken. The Proximan leader loomed over Zara, its alien features unreadable. "You will be taken to the labyrinth," it announced. "There, you will face the beast. Your survival will determine the fate of your people." Zara swallowed hard, fighting back her fear. What is the beast?" she asked, proud that her voice only trembled a little. The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "The beast is the legacy of those who came before. It is the judge of your worth. Face it with courage, little one, and you may yet surprise us all." With that cryptic statement, Zara was ushered into a sleek Proximan transport. As the doors closed, she caught one last glimpse of her mother's tear-stained face, of the red sun hanging low over the domes of New Eden. Then, with a hum of advanced technology, the transport lifted off, carrying her towards an uncertain fate. The journey to the labyrinth was mercifully short. Zara sat in silence, surrounded by the towering forms of her Proximan guards. She tried to focus on her breathing, on the lessons in meditation that Dr. Patel had taught the colonists to help manage the stress of life on an alien world. In, out, in, out. With each breath, Zara felt her racing heart slow, her mind clear. She thought of the stories her father used to tell her before he was lost in a terraforming accident 2 years ago. Tales of Earth's mythical heroes, facing impossible odds with nothing but their wits and courage. "You're a lot like them, my little star," he'd always say, tapping her on the nose. "Smart as a whip and twice as tough. You could take on the whole universe if you set your mind to it." Zara clung to those memories now, drawing strength from them. Whatever this beast was, whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them. For her family, for her people, and for herself. The transport came to a stop, and the doors slid open to reveal a vast cavern. Stalactites hummed from the ceiling like teeth, glowing with a soft bioluminescence that bathed everything in an otherworldly blue light. At the center of the cavern stood a massive stone archway, covered in glyphs that seemed to shift and change as Zara looked at them. "The entrance to the labyrinth," one of the Proximan guards announced. "Beyond lies your trial, human child. Enter, and may your species' potential be realized." Zara took a deep breath and stepped forward. As she passed under the archway, she felt a tingling sensation wash over her, as if she'd walked through a curtain of static electricity. She turned back, only to find that the archway had vanished, replaced by a solid rock wall. There was nowhere to go but forward. The passageway before her twisted and turned, branching off in multiple directions. The walls were covered in the same shifting glyphs she'd seen on the archway, pulsing with a faint light that seemed to beckon her onward. Zara began to walk, her footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. She trailed her hand along the wall, feeling the strange texture of the glyphs beneath her fingers. As she touched them, images flashed through her mind, glimpses of alien worlds, of creatures both beautiful and terrifying, of technologies beyond her wildest imagination. She pulled her hand away, gasping. What was this place? What secrets did it hold? As if in answer to her unspoken questions, a low rumble shook the passageway. Zara froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The rumble came again, louder this time, accompanied by the sound of something large moving in the darkness ahead. The beast, it had to be. Zara's first instinct was to run, to flee back the way she'd come. But she knew there was no escape that way. Whatever lay ahead, she had to face it. Taking a deep breath, she squared her shoulders and continued forward. The passageway opened into a vast chamber, easily the size of New Eden's central plaza, and there in the center stood the beast. Zara's breath caught in her throat. The creature before her defied description. It was massive, easily 4 times her height, with a body that seemed to shift between solid and liquid states. Multiple limbs, some ending in claws, others in delicate tendrils, emerged from its ever-changing form. Its head, if it could be called that, was a swirling vortex of colors and shapes. As Zara watched, frozen in awe and terror, the beast turned towards her. A pair of eyes, deep and ancient, focused on her small form. In that gaze, Zara saw intelligence, curiosity, and something else, a profound loneliness that resonated with her own feelings of isolation. "Hello," Zara said, her voice barely a whisper in the cavernous space. "I'm Zara. I've been sent to face you." The beast made no sound, but Zara felt a pressure in her mind, a presence that was alien yet somehow familiar. Images flashed through her thoughts. The beast, alone in the darkness for eons, waiting. Other humans, coming before her, fleeing in terror or attacking in blind panic. The Proximans, manipulating and experimenting, seeking to control the power they didn't understand. Zara gasped as the stream of images faded, leaving her dizzy but filled with a new understanding. The beast wasn't a monster to be defeated or a test to be passed. It was a being, ancient and powerful, trapped and alone. "You're not going to hurt me, are you?" Zara asked, taking a tentative step forward. "You're just lonely." The beast's form rippled, and Zara felt a wave of affirmation wash over her. Slowly, carefully, she approached the creature, her hand outstretched. As her fingers made contact with its shifting surface, a jolt of energy passed between them. In that moment, Zara knew that everything had changed. The beast had chosen her, just as she had chosen not to run. Together, they would rewrite the future of both their species. As the gravity of her situation settled over her, Zara realized that her journey, and the real challenge, was only just beginning. Into the labyrinth. The connection between Zara and the beast pulsed like a living thing, a bridge spanning the gulf between two vastly different forms of life. As Zara's hand rested on the beast's ever-shifting surface, she felt waves of emotion and fragments of memory wash over her, eons of solitude, the weight of unimaginable knowledge, and a desperate longing for companionship. "You've been down here all alone," Zara whispered, her voice thick with empathy. "For so long. I'm sorry." The beast's form rippled in response, and Zara felt a surge of gratitude that nearly brought her to her knees. She realized that in all the years, perhaps centuries or even millennia, that the beast had existed in this labyrinth, she might be the first to approach it with compassion rather than fear or aggression. As the initial shock of their connection faded, Zara became aware of her surroundings once more. The cavern they stood in was vast, its ceiling lost in shadows far above. Bioluminescent fungi clung to the walls, casting a soft, ethereal glow that shifted and danced as the beast moved. "Can you show me more?" Zara asked, her curiosity overcoming her lingering fear. "I want to understand." The beast's form undulated, and suddenly the cavern around them seemed to dissolve. Zara gasped as she found herself surrounded by images, like holograms but more substantial, almost as if she could reach out and touch them. She saw a younger version of the beast, not quite as large, but just as awe-inspiring, working alongside beings that looked similar to the Proximans, but somehow more refined. They were building something, massive structures that dwarfed anything Zara had ever seen, technology that seemed to bend the very fabric of reality. "You helped create all this," Zara breathed, wonder filling her voice. A sense of affirmation flowed through their connection, tinged with pride and a deep sadness. The images shifted, showing conflict, betrayal. The beast, trapped in the labyrinth, sealed away by those it had once called allies. Zara's heart ached for the creature. They feared you, she realized. Your power, your knowledge. They couldn't control you, so they locked you away. The beast's form pulsed, and Zara felt a complex mix of emotions: anger, hurt, resignation, and beneath it all, a flicker of hope that had been rekindled by her presence. As the visions faded and the cavern came back into focus, Zara found herself filled with a new sense of purpose. The Proximans had been using the beast as a tool, sending humans into the labyrinth as either potential sacrifices or, perhaps, in hopes of finding someone who could unlock the beast's secrets. "We need to get out of here," Zara said, her young face set with determination. "Both of us. The Proximans, my people, they all need to know the truth." The beast's form swirled, and Zara sensed hesitation. After so long in isolation, the idea of leaving was both thrilling and terrifying to the ancient being. "I know it's scary," Zara said softly, reaching out to touch the beast again, "but we can face it together. Will you trust me?" There was a moment of stillness, then a wave of acceptance flowed through their connection. The beast was willing to try. Zara grinned, feeling a surge of excitement despite the enormity of the task ahead. "Okay, first things first. We need to find a way out of this labyrinth. Do you know the way?" The beast's form rippled in what Zara was beginning to recognize as its version of a nod. A tendril extended from its body, gently wrapping around Zara's wrist. She felt a tug, urging her towards one of the many tunnels leading out of the central chamber. "Lead the way," Zara said, falling into step beside the massive creature. They moved through the twisting passages of the labyrinth, the beast flowing over obstacles that Zara had to climb or squeeze past. As they traveled, Zara noticed that the glyphs on the walls seemed to react to their presence, glowing brighter and shifting more rapidly. "What are these symbols?" she asked, tracing one with her finger. As before, touching the glyph sent a jolt through her mind, filling it with fleeting images and sensations. The beast paused, its form rippling as it communicated. Zara's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "It's a language," she breathed. "The whole labyrinth, it's like a giant book, isn't it? Storing all your knowledge, your history." The beast's affirmation came with a sense of pride and sadness. All this knowledge, trapped down here where no one could benefit from it. As they continued their journey, Zara found herself able to interpret more and more of the glyphs, guided by the beast's patient teaching through their mental link. She learned of civilizations that had risen and fallen among the stars, of scientific principles that made her head spin, of philosophical concepts that challenged everything she thought she knew about the nature of existence. Hours passed, though in the timeless environment of the labyrinth, it was hard for Zara to be sure. She was tired, hungry, and thirsty, but the excitement of discovery and the urgency of their mission drove her onward. Finally, they reached a section of the labyrinth that felt different. The air was fresher, with a faint breeze that carried the scent of the surface. The glyphs here were different too, more recent, and Zara realized with a start that she recognized some of the symbols. "These are Proximan writings," she said, her voice echoing in the tunnel. "We must be getting close to an exit they use." The beast's form tensed, and Zara felt a wave of apprehension through their link. She placed a comforting hand on its shifting surface. "It's okay," she said softly. "We'll be careful. We don't know what's waiting for us up there, but whatever it is, we'll face it together." The beast relaxed slightly at her words, and they pressed on. The tunnel began to slope upward, the bioluminescent fungi giving way to a faint, natural light filtering down from above. As they neared the surface, Zara heard voices, the familiar clicks and whistles of Proximan speech. She and the beast froze, pressing themselves against the wall of the tunnel. "Cannot continue this charade much longer," one voice was saying. "The humans grow restless, and the beast remains uncontrolled." "Patience," another voice replied. "The child we sent this time shows promise. If she fails, there are always more humans to sacrifice." Zara's blood ran cold at the callous way the Proximans discussed her people. She felt a surge of protective anger from the beast, mirroring her own emotions. "We need a plan," Zara whispered, her mind racing. "We can't just rush out there, but we can't go back either." The beast's form rippled thoughtfully. Then, slowly, carefully, it began to change. Zara watched in amazement as the massive creature shrank and reshaped itself, taking on a form that was almost human. A tall, slender figure with shimmering skin that could pass for an environment suit at a distance. "That's incredible," Zara breathed. "But will it fool them up close?" The beast, now humanoid, tilted its head, conveying uncertainty. It was a risk, but perhaps their only option. Zara took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. Okay, let's do this. We'll pretend I'm bringing you out as proof that I passed the test. Once we're past them, we make a run for the human settlement. Ready? The beast nodded, its newly formed face an approximation of determined human features. Together, they stepped out of the tunnel and into the harsh red light of Proxima Centauri B's surface. The two Proximan guards turned, their multifaceted eyes widening in surprise. Impossible, one of them chittered. The human child lies. And who is this? Zara lifted her chin, summoning every ounce of courage she possessed. I have passed your test, she declared, her voice steadier than she felt. The beast judged me worthy. This is its emissary, come to speak with your leaders. The Proximans exchanged glances, clearly uncertain how to proceed. This was unprecedented, outside the scope of their usual procedures. In that moment of hesitation, Zara saw their chance. She grabbed the beast's hand and ran, pulling her companion towards the distant domes of the human settlement. Behind them, she heard shouts of alarm and the whine of energy weapons powering up. But Zara didn't look back. With the beast by her side, she ran towards home, towards hope, towards a future that suddenly seemed full of incredible possibilities. The real challenge, she knew, was just beginning. But for the first time since she'd been chosen for the offering, Zara felt truly, wildly alive. Whatever came next, she was ready to face it, not just for herself, but for the beast, for her people, and for a truth that had been buried for far too long. Allies in the dark. Zara's lungs burned as she ran, the thin atmosphere of Proxima Centauri been making every breath a struggle. The beast, still in its humanoid form, kept pace beside her, its hand clasped firmly in hers. Behind them, the angry chittering of the Proximan guards grew fainter, but Zara knew they couldn't outrun them forever. We need to hide, she gasped between breaths, her eyes scanning the barren landscape for any sign of shelter. The beast tugged on her hand, steering her towards a cluster of rock formations jutting up from the red soil. As they neared, Zara saw that the rocks concealed the entrance to a small cave. Without hesitation, they ducked inside, pressing themselves against the cool stone walls. For several tense minutes, they waited in silence, listening to the sound of Proximan search parties passing nearby. Zara's heart pounded so loudly, she was sure it would give them away. But gradually, the alien voices faded into the distance. When she was certain it was safe, Zara let out a shaky breath. That was close, she whispered, turning to look at her companion. The beast's humanoid form shimmered, its features becoming more distinct in the dim light of the cave. It now looked almost exactly like a tall, slender human, save for the faint luminescence of its skin and the otherworldly depth of its eyes. Can you speak? Zara asked, curious about the extent of the beast's transformation. The being opened its mouth, and a series of soft, melodic tones emerged. It frowned, concentrating, and tried again. This time, the sounds began to form recognizable words. Za-ra, it said, its voice a haunting blend of human speech and alien harmonics. Safe now. Zara couldn't help but smile, despite their dire situation. For the moment, yes, but we need to figure out our next move. She peered out of the cave entrance, trying to get her bearings. In the distance, she could see the domes of the human settlement, shimmering like a mirage in the alien heat. My people, she said, pointing. We need to reach them, warn them about the Proximans. But how? We'll never make it across open ground. The beast tilted its head, considering. Then, to Zara's amazement, it began to change again. Its form shifted and stretched, becoming less humanoid and more amorphous. Within moments, it had transformed into something that looked like a cross between a hovercraft and a living creature. You want me to ride you? Zara asked, her eyes wide with a mixture of awe and apprehension. The beast vehicle pulsed in affirmation, a hatch-like opening appearing in its side. Zara took a deep breath, steeling herself. Okay, let's do this. She climbed inside, finding herself in a cocoon-like space that seemed to mold itself to her body. As soon as she was settled, the beast shot out of the cave, skimming over the rocky terrain at an incredible speed. The journey to the human settlement was a blur of red landscape and pounding heart. Several times, Zara spotted Proximan's search parties in the distance, but the beast's camouflage abilities and swift movements kept them undetected. As they approached the outskirts of the settlement, Zara felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. How would she explain everything that had happened? Would anyone believe her? The beast slowed as they neared the perimeter fence, coming to a stop just out of sight of the guard towers. It reformed into its humanoid shape, helping Zara out of its body with gentle hands. "Thank you," Zara said, feeling a wave of gratitude for this strange, wonderful being that had become her ally. "But how are we going to get inside? They'll never let you through looking like that." The beast considered for a moment, then began to shrink and reshape itself once more. Within seconds, it had taken on the form of a small, iridescent creature that looked like a cross between a cat and a lizard. Zara couldn't help but laugh softly. "Perfect. You can be my pet. A new species I discovered in the labyrinth." She scooped up the beast creature in her arms and approached the perimeter fence. As she drew near, shouts of surprise and joy erupted from the guard tower. "It's Zara," she heard someone cry. "She's alive." The next few minutes were a whirlwind of activity. The gates opened, and Zara found herself surrounded by familiar faces, her mother, tears streaming down her cheeks. Administrator Chen, his eyes wide with disbelief. Her friend Malik, whooping with joy. How is this possible?" her mother asked, hugging Zara tightly. "No one has ever returned from the labyrinth." Zara hugged her back, then gently disentangled herself. "Mom, everyone, listen. There's so much I need to tell you. The Proximans, the beast, everything we thought we knew is wrong." She held up the beast creature in her arms. "This is a friend. It helped me escape. But we need to talk somewhere private. The Proximans will be looking for us." Administrator Chen nodded, his face grave. "My office. Now, and Zara, it's good to have you back." As they made their way through the settlement, Zara could feel the eyes of every colonist on her. Word of her return spread like wildfire, and by the time they reached the administrative dome, a crowd had gathered outside. Once inside Chen's office, Zara set the beast creature down on the floor. "It's safe," she said. "You can show them." To the astonishment of everyone present, the small creature began to grow and reshape itself, taking on its full, awe-inspiring form. Zara's mother stumbled back in shock, while Chen and the others stared in wide-eyed disbelief. What is that thing?" Chen managed to ask, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara took a deep breath. "This is the beast. But it's not what the Proximans told us. It's not a monster or a test. It's a being of incredible intelligence and power, and it's been trapped in that labyrinth for longer than we can imagine." Over the next hour, Zara recounted everything that had happened, her journey into the labyrinth, her connection with the beast, and the truth she had learned about the Proximans' deception. "They've been using us," she concluded, her voice thick with emotion. "Sending our people into the labyrinth, hoping to find someone who could unlock the beast's secrets. They're not our benevolent overlords. They're exploiting us, and they're exploiting the beast." A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications of Zara's words sank in. It was Chen who finally broke it, his face a mask of determination. "This changes everything," he said. "But what do we do now?" "The Proximans still hold all the power. They have technology far beyond ours, weapons we can't hope to match." The beast, who had been silent throughout Zara's explanation, suddenly moved. It extended a tendril towards the center of the room, where it began to project a series of complex, three-dimensional images. Zara's eyes widened as she interpreted the images. "It's showing us Proximan technology," she explained, "and how to counteract it. The beast knows their weaknesses, their vulnerabilities. Chen leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with a mix of fear and excitement. Are you saying we could fight back? Zara nodded slowly. I think that's exactly what it's saying, but it won't be easy. We'll need everyone's help, and we'll have to move fast before the Proximans realize what's happening. Her mother, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. It's dangerous, she said softly. But staying under Proximan rule, sending our children to die in that labyrinth, that's no life either. I say we fight. One by one, the others in the room nodded their agreement. Zara felt a swell of pride and determination. This was why the beast had chosen her, she realized. Not just to free it from the labyrinth, but to bring hope and a chance for freedom to her people. All right, Chen said, his voice filled with newfound resolve. Let's make a plan. We have a lot of work to do, and not much time to do it. As the humans began to discuss strategy, Zara felt the beast's presence in her mind, a warm glow of approval and support. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew they would face them together, human and beast, united against a common foe. The revolution had begun, and Zara found herself at its heart, a young girl standing on the brink of changing the destiny of two species. As she looked around at the determined faces of her fellow humans and the enigmatic form of the beast, she felt a surge of hope. Against all odds, they had a chance, and they were going to take it. Rebellion rises. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of activity. The human settlement, once a place of quiet desperation, now hummed with purpose and barely contained excitement. Zara found herself at the center of it all, translating the beast's knowledge and helping to coordinate the rebellion. In a hidden workshop beneath the hydroponics bay, engineers and scientists worked tirelessly to recreate the Proximan technology the beast had shown them. Zara watched in amazement as familiar tools were repurposed and combined in ways she'd never imagined, guided by the ancient knowledge of her alien companion. It's incredible, Dr. Patel, the colony's lead scientist, murmured as she put the finishing touches on a device that looked like a cross between a satellite dish and a plasma cutter. With this, we should be able to disrupt their force fields. But Zara, are you sure the beast's information is accurate? The consequences if we're wrong. Zara nodded, feeling the reassuring presence of the beast in her mind. I'm sure, Dr. Petal, the beast has no reason to deceive us. It wants freedom as much as we do. As if summoned by her words, the beast flowed into the room, its form rippling with excitement as it inspected the newly created devices. It extended a tendril, making small adjustments here and there, fine-tuning the creations to match the blueprints in its vast memory. Elsewhere in the settlement, other preparations were underway. Malik and a team of the colony's best pilots were training on simulators, learning to fly ships they'd never seen outside of the beast's projections. In the medical bay, nurses and doctors studied alien physiology, preparing for the casualties that would inevitably come with conflict. Administrator Chen had taken charge of overall strategy, working closely with the settlement's security team to plan their attack. Zara sat in on these meetings, offering insights from the beast's memories of Proximan tactics and weaknesses. Their overconfidence is their greatest vulnerability, Chen said during one such session, his finger tracing a line across a holographic map of the Proximan compound. They've grown complacent, never imagining we could pose a real threat. We'll use that against them. As the days passed and the plan took shape, Zara found moments of quiet reflection becoming increasingly rare. In one such moment, she stood at the edge of the settlement, looking out at the alien landscape that had been her home for as long as she could remember. The beast in its humanoid form stood silently beside her. Are we doing the right thing? Zara asked softly, voicing the doubts that had been nagging at her. So many people could get hurt. The beast turned to her, its features shifting to convey empathy and resolve. Freedom comes with price, it said, its command of human speech improving daily. But slavery, greater price. Your people strong, brave, deserve chance. Zara nodded, drawing strength from her companion's words and the unwavering support she felt through their mental link. "You're right. We have to try. For all of us." The day of the attack dawned like any other on Proxima Centauri B, the red sun casting its eerie light across the landscape. But within the human settlement, an air of tense anticipation filled every dome and corridor. Zara stood with Chen and the other leaders in the command center, a repurposed storage unit now filled with hastily assembled communication equipment. The beast loomed behind her, its form rippling with barely contained energy. "All teams report in," Chen's voice crackled over the comm system. One by one, the responses came back. The strike teams were in position. The pilots were ready with their cobbled-together fleet of ships. The medical teams were prepared for casualties. Chen took a deep breath, then turned to Zara. "It's time. Are you ready?" Zara swallowed hard, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her young shoulders. She nodded. "I'm ready." With a gesture from Chen, the attack began. The first wave of human ships, little more than retrofitted mining skimmers armed with beast-inspired weaponry, rose from hidden bunkers around the settlement. They streaked towards the Proximan compound, their approach masked by stealth technology that shouldn't have been possible with human engineering. The Proximans, caught completely off guard, scrambled to respond. Their defense systems, formidable as they were, had been designed to repel attacks from other advanced species. They never expected a threat to come from the primitive humans they'd subjugated. Zara watched the battle unfold on the holographic displays, her heart pounding. The human ships darted and weaved with incredible agility, striking at weak points in the Proximan defenses that only the beast's inside knowledge could have revealed. "It's working," Chen breathed, his eyes wide with disbelief and hope. "We're actually doing it." But the Proximans were not so easily defeated. As the initial shock wore off, they began to rally, bringing more powerful weapons to bear. Zara saw human ships wink out of existence on the display, each loss a stab of pain in her heart. "We need to move to Phase 2, she said, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil, "before they can fully regroup." Chen nodded, keying the comm. "Ground teams, you have a go. May luck be with you." Across the battlefield, teams of human soldiers emerged from hiding places around the Proximan compound. Armed with EMP devices and other beast-inspired weapons, they began to systematically target key structures and defense systems. Zara felt a surge of pride as she watched her people fight with a courage and determination she'd never seen before. The beast, sensing her emotions, placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Your people, impressive," it said. "Stronger than Proximans know." As the battle raged on, it became clear that the element of surprise and the beast's knowledge had given the humans a significant advantage. Proximan defenses crumbled one by one, their once impenetrable compound now in chaos. But victory was far from assured. As Zara watched, a massive Proximan warship began to descend from orbit, its weapons capable of obliterating the entire human settlement. "No," Zara whispered, horror filling her voice. "We didn't account for this. We can't stop something that big." The beast's form rippled, its eyes fixed on the descending warship. Without a word, it began to change, growing larger and more complex, its body incorporating elements of the technology scattered around the command center. "What are you doing?" Zara asked, a note of fear in her voice. The beast turned to her, its features resolving into a smile that was both sad and determined. "What must be done," it said, "for freedom, for future." Before Zara could respond, the beast shot upward, crashing through the roof of the command center. It streaked into the sky, its form continuing to grow and change as it rose to meet the Proximan warship. Zara ran outside, her eyes fixed on the sky as the beast, now a swirling mass of energy and matter, collided with the warship. There was a blinding flash of light, a shockwave that knocked everyone off their feet, and then silence. As the dust settled and Zara's vision cleared, she saw that both the warship and the beast were gone. In their place was a shimmering field of energy that spread across the sky, protecting the planet below. Tears streamed down Zora's face as she realized what had happened. The beast had sacrificed itself to save them, using its incredible power to create a shield that would protect the planet from further Proximon attacks. Around her, cheers began to rise as the humans realized they had won. The Proximon compound lay in ruins, its surviving occupants surrendering or fleeing. But for Zora, the victory felt hollow in the face of her loss. As the celebration began, Zora stood apart, her eyes fixed on the shimmering sky. "Thank you," she whispered to her lost friend, "for everything." A warm breeze brushed against her cheek, carrying with it a sense of peace and something more, a flicker of consciousness that felt achingly familiar. Zora's eyes widened as she realized the truth. The beast wasn't gone. It had become something more, something that would watch over and protect this world for generations to come. With a smile through her tears, Zora turned back to her people. The battle was won, but the real work of building a new future was just beginning. And somehow, she knew, the beast would be with them every step of the way. A new dawn. The days following the rebellion were a blur of activity and emotion. The human settlement, once a place of quiet subjugation, now buzzed with the energy of newfound freedom and the daunting task of rebuilding. Zora found herself at the center of it all, a reluctant hero thrust into a role she never imagined. As the dust settled and the immediate threat of Proximon retaliation faded, the reality of their situation began to sink in. They had won their freedom, but at a great cost. The settlement had suffered significant damage, and many lives had been lost in the battle. The beast's sacrifice loomed large in everyone's minds, a constant reminder of the price of liberty. Zora stood before the colony's assembly, her young face etched with a maturity beyond her years. The entire population had gathered in the central plaza, their faces a mix of hope, fear, and uncertainty. "We've achieved something incredible," Zora began, her voice carrying across the hushed crowd. "We've thrown off the chains of Proximon rule and proven that humanity is capable of far more than they ever gave us credit for. But our journey is far from over." She gestured to the shimmering energy field that still covered the sky, a constant reminder of the beast's presence. "Our friend, the being we once feared as the beast, has given us an incredible gift. This shield will protect us from immediate Proximon reprisal, but it won't last forever. We need to use this time wisely, to build, to learn, and to prepare." Administrator Chen stepped forward, nodding in agreement. "Zora's right. We've won our freedom, but now we need to prove we deserve it. The Proximons will return, and when they do, we need to be ready." Over the next few weeks, the settlement transformed. Under Zora's guidance, teams began to study and reverse engineer the Proximon technology left behind. The beast's knowledge, still accessible to Zora through their lingering connection, proved invaluable in understanding the advanced systems. Dr. Patel and her team of scientists worked tirelessly to integrate this new technology with their existing systems. Soon, the domes of the settlement began to shimmer with enhanced force fields, and new, more efficient power systems came online. In the medical bay, doctors marveled at the healing potential of Proximon biotechnology. Injuries that would have been life-threatening just weeks ago were now easily treatable. The population's health improved dramatically as they gained access to advanced nutritional supplements and environmental controls. But it wasn't just about adopting alien technology. Zora insisted that they needed to forge their own path, to create something new that combined the best of human ingenuity with the advanced knowledge they gained. "We can't just become the Proximons," she argued in a council meeting. "We need to remember who we are, where we came from. Our humanity is our strength." Her words resonated with the colonists. Art began to flourish in the settlement, with murals depicting their struggle and triumph appearing on the sides of buildings. Musicians composed songs about the rebellion and the beast's sacrifice. A new culture was emerging, one that honored their past while embracing their new future. As the weeks turned into months, the first ships began to arrive from Earth. The distress signal sent during the rebellion had finally reached humanity's homeworld, and the response was overwhelming. Ships filled with supplies, volunteers, and diplomats arrived, marveling at the advances the colony had made. Zara found herself acting as a bridge between her people and the new arrivals, explaining the incredible events that had transpired. Many were skeptical at first, unable to believe that a small colony had overthrown an advanced alien race. But the evidence was undeniable, and soon Proxima Centauri became a symbol of human potential across the galaxy. But with this new attention came new challenges. Some of the Earth officials saw the advanced technology as a resource to be exploited. Others feared that the colony's actions would provoke a wider conflict with the Proximans. Zara stood firm in the face of these pressures. "We won our freedom not just for ourselves, but for all of humanity," she declared in a tense meeting with Earth diplomats. "We won't squander it by becoming the very thing we fought against." Her resolve was tested when long-range sensors detected a massive Proximan fleet assembling at the edge of the star system. The shield created by the beast's sacrifice was weakening, and soon they would face their former oppressors again. As the colony prepared for the coming storm, Zara spent more and more time at the site where the beast had last stood. She could still feel its presence, a warm, comforting energy that seemed to pulse in time with her own heartbeat. "I wish you were here," she whispered one evening, watching the alien sunset paint the sky in shades of crimson and gold. "We need your wisdom now more than ever." As if in response, she felt a surge of energy through her connection with the beast. Suddenly, her mind was filled with visions, not of weapons or shields, but of bridges, of connections between different forms of life. She saw humans and Proximans working together, sharing knowledge and resources. She saw a future where conflict gave way to cooperation, where the differences between species became strengths rather than barriers. Zara gasped as the vision faded, understanding flooding through her. The beast hadn't just given them the means to defend themselves, it had shown them a path to a greater future. With renewed purpose, Zara raced back to the settlement. She burst into the council chamber, where the colony's leaders were debating their response to the approaching Proximan fleet. "We've been looking at this all wrong," she announced, her eyes shining with excitement. "We don't need to fight the Proximans. We need to talk to them." Her proposal was met with skepticism and outright disbelief. But as Zara explained her vision, shared the wisdom imparted by the beast, she saw understanding dawn in the eyes of her people. It was a radical plan, fraught with risk. But as they had proven time and time again, the humans of Proxima Centauri were not afraid of taking chances. As the Proximan fleet entered orbit, tensions ran high. But instead of raising shields and charging weapons, the colony sent out a message of peace. Zara, standing tall despite her young age, prepared to face the Proximan leaders not as an enemy, but as an equal, ready to forge a new path for both their peoples. The future was uncertain, but for the first time it was truly theirs to shape. And as Zara felt the beast's presence surround her, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, human, Proximan, and the enduring spirit of the beast, united in the pursuit of a better tomorrow. Forging the future, the Proximan fleet hung in orbit like a sword of Damocles, its massive ships casting long shadows across the face of Proxima Centauri. In the colony's newly constructed diplomatic center, Zara stood before a holographic display, studying the alien vessels with a mixture of awe and determination. "They've received our message," Administrator Chen reported, his voice tense. "They're requesting to speak with our leader." All eyes in the room turned to Zara. Though she was still young, her role in the rebellion and her connection to the beast had made her the de facto leader of their fledgling society. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "Patch them through," she said, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. The holographic display flickered, and suddenly they were face to face with the Proximan High Commander. Its elongated form towered over them, multifaceted eyes glittering with an unreadable emotion. "Greetings, humans of Proxima Centauri." The alien's voice resonated through the chamber, translated by their advanced systems. You have defied all expectations. We come seeking answers and retribution. Zara stepped forward, her chin held high. High Commander, we welcome you in peace. We've contacted you not to fight, but to talk. There's been too much conflict already, too much misunderstanding. It's time for a new approach. The Proximan leader's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement or irritation. A new approach. You destroy our outpost, steal our technology, and now you speak of peace. Explain yourself, human child. Zara didn't flinch under the alien's gaze. Instead, she reached out with her mind, drawing on her connection to the beast. As she did, the air around her began to shimmer with a soft, ethereal light. We've learned much since we last met, High Commander. About ourselves, about you, and about the being you called the beast. It wasn't a monster or a weapon. It was a teacher, a bridge between worlds, and it left us with a vision of a future we could build together. As she spoke, images began to form in the air around her, visions of humans and Proximans working side by side, of great cities that blended the best of both cultures, of starships venturing out into the galaxy on joint missions of exploration. The Proximan leader recoiled slightly, its eyes widening. This is impossible. How are you doing this? Zara smiled softly. The beast lives on, High Commander. Not as a physical being, but as a part of all of us. It showed us that our differences aren't weaknesses. They're strengths, if we're willing to learn from each other. For a long moment, silence reigned. Then, slowly, the Proximan leader's posture changed, relaxing from its aggressive stance. Perhaps we have underestimated you, humans, and perhaps we have forgotten some of the wisdom of our own past. Over the next several hours, Zara and the colony's leaders engaged in intense negotiations with the Proximan delegation. It wasn't easy. Centuries of mistrust and prejudice couldn't be erased in a day. But step by step, word by word, they began to build understanding. The Proximans were amazed by how quickly the humans had adapted their technology and intrigued by the unique innovations they developed. The humans, in turn, were eager to learn more about Proximan culture and history. As the talks progressed, Zara felt the beast's presence more strongly than ever. It wasn't controlling her or feeding her information, but rather guiding her, helping her find the right words to bridge the gap between species. Finally, after days of negotiation, a historic agreement was reached. The Proximan fleet would withdraw, but not before establishing a permanent embassy on the planet. In exchange, human representatives would be welcomed on the Proximan homeworld. A new era of cooperation and mutual learning would begin. As the agreement was formalized, Zara stepped out of the diplomatic center, needing a moment to process everything that had happened. She found herself walking to the outskirts of the settlement, to the spot where the beast had made its final sacrifice. The air still shimmered faintly here, a lasting reminder of the incredible being that had changed their lives forever. Zara placed her hand on the ground, feeling the warm pulse of energy that seemed to emanate from the very soil. "We did it," she whispered, a tear sliding down her cheek. "We found a way forward, just like you showed us. I just wish you could see it." As if in response, the air around her began to glow. Zara gasped as the beast's form shimmered into existence before her, not solid, but a translucent, ghostly image that radiated warmth and approval. "Always, here," the beast's voice echoed in her mind. "In you, in all, future, bright." Zara smiled through her tears, understanding at last. The beast hadn't left them. It had become a part of them, its wisdom and compassion living on through their actions. As the image faded, Zara turned back towards the settlement. The sun was rising, painting the alien sky in beautiful hues of red and gold. It was a new day, not just for their colony, but for two species that had once been bitter enemies. In the months and years that followed, Proxima Centauri became a shining example of interspecies cooperation. The human settlement grew into a thriving city, its architecture a stunning blend of human and Proximan design. Research facilities sprang up, where scientists of both species worked together to unlock the secrets of the universe. Zora, growing into a wise and respected leader, never forgot the lessons the beast had taught her. She worked tirelessly to maintain the delicate balance between human and Proximan interests, always striving for understanding and cooperation over conflict. And sometimes in quiet moments, when the twin suns of Proxima Centauri painted the sky in possible colors, she would feel the beast's presence, not as a separate entity, but as a part of herself and everyone around her, a legacy of wisdom, courage, and hope that would guide them into the endless possibilities of the future. As other alien races made contact, drawn by tales of the miraculous cooperation on Proxima Centauri, Zora and her people stood ready to embrace new challenges and opportunities. The beast's final gift hadn't just been protection or technology. It had been a vision of what they could become when they dared to reach across the boundaries of species and work together. And so, on a small planet orbiting a red dwarf star, a new chapter in galactic history began. A chapter written not in the language of war and conquest, but in the universal tongues of peace, understanding, and the unquenchable spirit of exploration that united all sentient beings. The story of the little human girl sent to face the beast had become legend, a tale told across the stars. But the true story, the story of how that girl had helped forge a future brighter than anyone could have imagined, was still being written, with every new connection made, every boundary crossed, and every impossible dream achieved. And somewhere, in the shimmering air and the beating hearts of every being on Proxima Centauri, the beast watched and smiled and dreamed of the wonders yet to come.